welcome to Prepperties, where we are on the hunt for safe haven properties worldwide. I'm your host, Diane Cohn, and with me today we have John Wake, who is a realtor with HomeSmart in Phoenix, Arizona.
Hi, Dan.
Hello. All right, so John, first question. What is your story? How did you end up in Phoenix?
Well, I was born and raised in Phoenix, and actually my dad sold real estate here. He sold like farm agricultural real estate, and I ended up getting a master's degree in agricultural economics, and worked in Washington, D.C., and worked at the American Embassy in Paris, and then had kids and came back here and had worked for the Arizona Department of Agriculture and had a small business for a while, and then got into real estate. One thing I liked about the real estate was it was a huge industry with lots of little niches in it. And I like the numbers. You know, to me, a great fun is to find the secrets buried in a pile of numbers. That's just totally my style.
Yeah, I understand that. So, do you live out in the country now? Or are you in the burbs or what?
No, I'm in Scottsdale, so it's probably the biggest or the second biggest metropolitan town within Metro Phoenix. There's Phoenix, Mason, and Scottsdale.
Gotcha. So what has been happening in your market since 2008?
Wow, that's a loaded question. Okay, 2008. Wow, the market was just totally tanking in 2007 and then 8, and then slowly bottomed out. Then they had the home buyer tax credit, and price went up a little bit. And then when they ended that program, they went down again, of course. And so my theory is what scares people is the falling prices. Yeah. People run away from falling prices, but they only walk towards increasing prices. So those falling prices were like killing. Everybody stayed away. So it took like a year of flat prices. After they ended that program, prices fell as fast as they did any time during the whole bust. And then they needed about a year of flat prices before people started putting their toe in the water again.
So do you think that all that government intervention is really key in keeping your market afloat, or what do you think about that?
It totally delayed the recovery by a year. In my mind, there's no doubt it delayed the recovery by a year because we would have started going up because we needed that 1 year of flat prices, and instead we had a year later when we should have been going up, prices were falling because they ended the program. So but anyway, they thought they were being clever, but they were too clever by half.
So how do you feel about it now? Do you feel like it's all flushed out, or is there still...
Oh, yeah. Our market has gone up phenomenally. We're up, for the median home price is up over, what is it, like 80%? And no, it's like 65%, the median. The really cheap stuff is up over 100%. And even the expensive stuff, like in areas of Scottsdale, are up 20%, more than 20% from 2 years ago. So it's just, and now the problem was, I'll pull my economics background here, is the problem was that from prices were going up, and so Joe Blow, like you and me, was increasing the number of homes were going on the market. Well, I didn't want to sell at 2011 prices, but I want to sell now. But at the same time, the foreclosures were just tanking, and the short sales were just tanking, so there was like no increase in inventory. So, but demand was up because people saw prices were falling. But we're going to see starting now, and certainly in every zip code by this time next year, is that there's going to be a huge increase in inventory. That's kind of my take on it, because you have all these. If you look at the graphs, all the Joe home sellers, their inventory that's sitting in the market, the new listings is going up like this, and it was being offset by the fall in foreclosures. But there's going to be like foreclosures and short sales are going to zero out in the next several months. And then it's just going to look like a takeoff in inventory. So basically, we're going from a very tight market to the story next year will be returning to a normal market.
Balanced, you could say. Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you're a seller, then you're thinking, yeah, it's too much competition because you got to hear all the stories from their neighbors who sold in 5 days with 4 offers, and now they'll be upset because it takes them 2 months and they got to lower their price.
Right. So, who's buying in your market? Now, we heard rumors about big hedge funds coming in and just buying up all these rental properties. Yeah. You know, is that really a factor? Tell me who's buying in your market.
Yeah, I just got some numbers from Arizona State University. They have a really good reports on the real estate market. And they were comparing last September to this September just on that issue, on the industrial or the big guys, the institutional guys, there's about 9 big players that are institutional buyers. Last September, 2012, all 8 of them were active. In this September, only 4 were active, but at a much lower level. So the whole market investment in generally was about 30% of the market. Now it's a year ago in September. Now it was 20%. So, and that's 15 to 20% is almost normal for in all cash sales. So we're getting back to normal. And what's happening is also the vacation homes has gone down some, and so that's being replaced by people buying for their primary residence. That's the big growth area right now.
So back to the hedge funds, they're holding, you think? Have you seen any signs of selling?
We haven't seen signs of selling yet. And actually, they don't hold that. People think, oh, when they start selling, in fact, I thought this for a while. When they start selling, it's going to cause Armageddon because it's going to lower prices and it's a shadow inventory and on and on. But then the guy at issue looks into it and he can look and see what they own and says, it's really not that much. Even if they sold them all, it's like 1 month's supply. So there's just not that many. And I expect as they see the prices start leveling off, they'll start hitting the market too. So we'll start seeing, I think, those institutional sellers. Some of them, if they need to cash out, they'll start selling next year. But why sell now when prices are increasing so rapidly? But they're starting to slow off. So then they'll hit the market. They'll start putting stuff on the market. But it shouldn't have a major impact. They're just not big enough.
Right. So really you're seeing mostly just regular people buying in your market.
Yeah, right. And then a traditional one that we see a lot is people who are buying as a retirement home, but they haven't retired yet. But they're afraid of increasing prices. So that market is strong because they say, I'm going to retire in 2 years or 5 years. And so they want to come in and lock in today's prices. So that's a common market. So it's kind of an investment, but it's kind of a retirement home. So they want to maybe spend a month or a week and then rent it out for the rest of the time for the next few years and then make it their winter home or their permanent home later on.
So retirement living is actually a big component of the Scottsdale, Phoenix market, isn't it? So I'm wondering, how is the cost of living for retirees coming in from other parts of the U.S. or even maybe the world?
Yeah, I looked that up online since you told me you were going to ask that question. And Phoenix is almost exactly the cost of living is almost the same as the U.S. It's right about right there. So it would be a lot less than California, for example. But one thing that people are really surprised when they move here, particularly from California or the Northeast, is the property taxes. The property taxes are really low here. So if you're retired and on fixed income, that's nice. We don't have like the California thing where if you buy it in 72, you pay what that rate was then, and the new people have to pay a really high rate to make up for it. Now, you're going to pay pretty much the same as the guy next door. And
is there a rule of thumb on that? Like, is it 0.5 or?
It's like 1 point something. It depends because and in fact, Scottsdale is not that high. It's like, if you look at the metro area, the property taxes in Scottsdale may be number 5 because the values are so high that it doesn't have to have a high rate compared to some other cities. So that's cool. That's one of a big surprise. And for an investor, that's really big. If you go to Texas, oh my gosh, the property taxes will kill her. You go to Florida. In fact, a lot of the investors, the smaller investors, are going to Florida. And I talked to a guy, he was saying, oh man, I get killed by property taxes plus insurance. I'm only holding it for a few months, but still it's a significant increase in his cost in Florida compared to Arizona.
Well, that's good. So costs are low on that level. What about safety, crime? You hear about Detroit, they're bankrupt, everybody's leaving, there's no cops. How is Phoenix and Scottsdale doing in terms of managing their own budgets and keeping, services going for its residents?
Yeah, that's one of the places that are really strong. They keep the property taxes are really low, but then they also are pretty well managed. Scottsdale's known for being quite well managed. And then there's a lot of smaller towns, Chandler, Gilbert, all around the valley. I don't know if anybody's got a crisis on budgets on the cities. The cities tend to be pretty fiscally responsible here.
All right, so say I'm a foreign investor, I'm from the UK or Europe or wherever, and or Argentina, and I'm looking for some safe place to put some money. Maybe it's for retirement later, maybe it's for rental. Where do you suggest I would look?
Well, one of the first ones, like I was mentioning, is in Scottsdale, where you can get a luxury home or a very nice home, and the odds of it appreciating are good, or excellent. And then there's other ones we can go to really nice suburbs, like Chandler and Gilbert and Tempe, where there's for example, there's an Intel fab down there. So there's tons of engineering jobs, very well-paying jobs down there. So there's a good demand for rentals down there. So in that case, you would be doing it on a 12-month rental. Or you could do that as well as in Scottsdale, or you could do a seasonal rental here and rent it yourself for a month or use it yourself for a month. So there's some people now, since the institutional investors are kind of leaving, that's kind of leaving a little bit more of an opening for the small flippers, because they were largely, not largely, a big part of their purchases were at the courthouse. And so that margin just got slammed by all the institutional investors. Their goal was, each one is different, but they were trying to think, well, I'm paying all cash, it needs to be 15% below market. Well, that got really smaller than that because there was so much competition. But now the big guys are leaving, you have a little bit more advantage for buying cash. But there's just not that many foreclosures, so that's on the other side. There's fewer foreclosures. So that's tough, but there's still some short sales. But there's just a lot of small flippers out there, but that's a different angle than being an investor, because you have to be here, you have to know. But there's like real estate firms that specialize in helping flippers.
So let's say I have a budget of $400,000 and I live somewhere else, not a U.S. resident, or maybe I have $500,000 and I want to get that little special visa thing they've got going. How would be the competition for that level of, just say I want a single level home, nice, in a nice community? Is this going to be a competitive situation? Do I have to slam down all cash, or?
No, you should be fine. You should be able to get financing. You might get multiple offers, but in that price range, there's going to be a lot less competition than lower price ranges. Another investment strategy is new homes are starting to be built again. That whole industry was just about wiped out. It was like 20% or less of what it was at the peak. And so they're slowly ramping up. And that was a play that, God, I haven't seen it in ages, but people would lock in a new home, and then by the time it was completed, it would be worth more. So that's a possible play. And certainly that's been a play. If you tried that for the last 2 years, you were doing great, because the new home prices have increased so much.
So there's opportunity for that, because actually if I'm outside the U.S. and I'm not planning to use the house right away, I can go to a developer, I can make a deposit, I can wait, 9 months for the thing to be built? And
it'd be maybe 5 or 6 months in a best case scenario, but builders are famous for saying, oh, well, we have this problem and it's going to be delayed. So there's that. So you can see, okay, it's worth more than what I bought it. Sometimes they'll have restrictions. You can't sell it for a year. It depends on each builder, has their own policies, but that's another possibility. And if someone's moving here, that's a nice possibility, because it gives you time to sell. You got 5 or 6 months to sell your home back in Incline Village before you move to Scottsdale.
I know it's kind of hot out there. But I hear there are a lot of Arabian horses. That's my favorite breed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's on my list of places to go visit.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So awesome. Well, is there anything else going on in your market that's new or interesting, or you want people to be aware of?
Oh, let's see. Just be aware that the market is changing, and you're going to have to be really, particularly if you're selling an investment property, you need to be able to pull the trigger and realize the market's changing. You're not going to get multiple offers, but the long-term potential looks great. It looks like we're at the beginning of a long-term get back to normal with 3 to 5% appreciation a year for the next many years. Be my guess.
You're not seeing a housing bubble here. You're not like the QE isn't really bothering you. To you, it's getting back to normal.
Oh well, there's the whole thing of underlying inflation, and if there is inflation, typically real estate is a safety net for inflation. Like in the 70s, there was like 2 big price appreciations. One of them was just related to inflation. Inflation was killing everybody's savings accounts, but they saw houses going up pretty much at the rate of inflation, so they were just buying real estate to protect their savings. And it's very effective for that. So we could see that play if we started getting inflation. That would be not unlikely at all.
Yeah. Actually, I get the sense that people are out there looking for hard assets, ways to diversify out of the paper markets and into something that's tangible. They can rent it out. They can live in it. Yet they understand it.
Yeah, you can see it. You're not going to get. It's nice to be able to see your asset. Oh, there's that building over there. I own that.
Bill Bernanke just can't print it with his 3D printer, you know.
Those people are paying me rent every month.
Right.
So that hands-on investment is cool. It's so much safer too because you can see it. Well, until 2005 and 6, real estate was. So so anyway, that's I think we're looking at. Everything is looking really optimistic for real estate. I guess the downside would be is if the inventory kept increasing somehow, and then we got into an oversupply situation in 2 years from now. I don't see that, but you never know.
All right. Well, John Wake, thank you very much. That is all the time we have. I would like to thank him very much for being on my episode 1. If you'd like to get in touch with John, please reach out to me. I would love to make the connection and make a formal introduction. And until next time, we will see you later.